Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Darien residents. Really excited to see all of you here today. As you know, we have two sessions for this community engagement, and this is the morning session. We have an afternoon session on the property, and I just want to I know a few of you might be thinking about going to both, and you might have a bus reservation. So due to high tide flooding, which will be high tides right around 2 o'clock today, so due to that, we are not having the bus pick up people at Pear Tree. So if you have a bus reservation for this afternoon, the buses, we have two buses, they'll be picking up and bringing people back from Town Hall, down by the Mather Center. Okay, so if you're confused at all about that, just let me know. So again, I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank the Grreat Island Advisory Committee members for joining us also. And I want to say that we looked really, really carefully at finding what we thought would be the very best fit for Darien as far as the landscape consultant team, and I think that we have done that. Reed Hildebrand, led by Becca Sturgis, started joining our meetings in July 22nd, I think was our first meeting. So we're really excited to have them here, and I'm going to turn it over to Becca Sturgis. Thank you.
So we could not be more thrilled to be here with you today. We feel totally amazed that the weather is as stunning as it is. And we have spent many hours beginning to try to get to know you and what you care about, and beginning to try to understand a little bit more about Grreat Island and what it is already and what it might become. So today, what we want to do with you is start that conversation a little bit more openly and carefully, and we invite you all to share your thoughts, share what you know, share what you want to know, and really talk to the big team that we've assembled here in this room today and also later this afternoon on the island. To get the conversation sort of spread out, to set the table, maybe as a metaphor, we're going to take you through a few slides just so you understand what this process entails and some of the key questions and considerations that we're looking at. So our outline for this morning in this conversation is just to introduce ourselves. We're going to talk a little bit about how we find a vision, where we begin, what the possible futures might be for the island, and how the outreach process will go forward. After that, we're going to have some discussion in small groups and at tables and around these boards. The reason for that is that really we want each person to have the best understanding and the most opportunities to really talk to the team and share what they know and ask more questions and maybe also learn some things today. A couple of other things. We are launching our website for Grreat Island today. There is a URL that we are excited to share. And then as part of that, if you do have feedback or comments, we're inviting people to give them in the suggestion boxes, which you can find around on your way out. Or you can add a comment to the contact at the bottom of if you scroll through the website to the bottom, you can send a comment that way if you like. Okay, so to introduce, we have a big group from Reed Hildebrand, all landscape architects, almost all except for Michelle here today, all day. Standing next to me is Meg Griscom. She's the project manager. She and I opened our studio in New Haven 10 years ago, and Reed Hildebrand, just so you know, is a landscape architecture firm that has been practicing for almost 25 years, and we particularly specialize in places just like Grreat Island. Because we can't do this work only with a landscape lens, we have assembled a much broader team to help us be as knowledgeable and sensitive as possible. And so some of the folks that are in the room with you right now are part of that team, and I invite them to stand up and wave at you. Please stand up if you're a part of our team. Today, I know Monica already mentioned this, but we have the morning session, which you're already in. Thank you, everybody. And then we have an afternoon session. Sort of simply, the way we thought about this is we wanted to have a kind of general assembly moment like this to gather everyone, to make it a little bit easier, also to have it be a little bit faster if you have many other things you're trying to do today. And then the afternoon is meant to be more experiential, to get people or encourage people who have not been to the island to come out and just get to spend a little bit time on the island. So, this island has been in private hands for a very long time. And now is an amazing moment where the island is getting opened up for so many more people. It's been a beloved place for birds and, things like salamanders, and the few people who were either family or friends who were, or people who got to work on the island to know. Now it is part of the town of Darien, and it is a public island. And very carefully, we need to make the decisions with you about what changes are made to accommodate safely that future of it being a public island. There are a set of choices, and choices start sometimes simply and then open up into more and more choices. But in a very basic way, there are choices around what do we protect and preserve, and choices about how do we activate the island? What new components or new activities start to happen there that haven't happened before? One of the things that has come forward the most about the island is how ecologically rich it is. How many different species, how many different trees, how much life there is on this island. And so we have been beginning to try to gather all the knowledge that already exists. You have a really robust birding community in Darien and beyond. And also just learning from GIS and some of the other resources that are out there. But we additionally have biohabitats who are really wonderful ecologists helping us inventory and understand what is there. We've also been looking ahead to the future because there's the sort of future that we are all anticipating in the next few years, and our task over the next sort of trying to make a plan for particularly the next 10 years. But even the flooding that is experienced today in Pear Tree Point Beach Park, there are pretty well predicted changes to what the sound is doing. And so this is just a drawing looking at, this was from a study commissioned by the town of Darien, looking at the future expansion of the salt marshes and how they might impact how we're thinking about the island. And then, we do really want to know who we're sharing this island with and what these different ecological communities support. And so there's the sort of beginning to get a close understanding of the species that are in these different ecologies on the island. And the sort of dominant ecology is the marine woodland that is there. And I think it makes a really beautiful place to explore. And that combined with the rocks and the topography makes the island feel much, much larger actually than it is. And that's something that feels really important to us. Then there are the parts of this project that are not so much about what is there as policies that determine what is allowable and what can happen. And so there are a set of regulations, different kinds of regulations, that we must make a vision conform to. And some of those you have maybe encountered already in your own lives and making decisions about your properties or organizations. Some may be new to you, but it's our responsibility as your consultants and working with the town to make sure that everything that we bring to you as part of the vision seems like it's aligned with what those policies are. So, where do we begin? Meg.
Thank you, Becca. I just want to do a quick sound check. Can everybody hear us all right? Is it a little too loud? Are we good? Okay, great. Just want to confirm. So thank you, Becca. We are really, as Becca said, we're just thrilled to be here with you all. This is an incredible opportunity. This is an incredible landscape. And for you, the residents of Darien, it's especially important that we listen to you and that we make sure that we find the right fit for you all. So that's why we're here today. So as part of our public engagement process, a little bit louder, okay, as part of our public engagement process, we are going to be embarking on a two-phase process. The first is a vision plan, and the second is a master plan and concept design. And you'll see that throughout the process, we'll be having community engagement workshops, stakeholder group meetings, pop-up installations where we meet with communities, community workshops for visioning activities. We're going to be doing user surveys. So you'll see as you leave today, there is a QR code as you leave, and our website also has a link to the visitor survey. So we really, really hope that you all will fill that out. It's a wonderful opportunity for you all to give us your feedback, and we'll continue to talk about that as we go today. So for public engagement process, we have several components that we use as part of these series. So those include community workshops, opportunities for experiential engagement, and then specific focus group conversations where we bring in members of the community to really benefit from their firsthand knowledge of Darien and what is needed. As part of our community workshops right now, just to give you all a sense of where we are relative to schedule, we are here September 21st in our workshop number 1 as part of our discovery and understanding. The next workshop is going to be in November. That'll be workshop 2, where we'll talk about vision and directions. And then as part of the master plan and concept phase, we'll be doing workshop number 3, really starting to explore preliminary ideas with you all in February of 2025. And then workshop number 4, where we're starting to really narrow in on some of the concepts and the design. And that'll be next May, where we'll be presenting some of those ideas with you. Meanwhile, bringing you along with us the entire time to really capture your ideas and your input as part of this process. In addition to that, we will also be having focus group conversations. So our focus group conversations really bring in members of the community to get specific insights from you all, and that is going to be happening throughout the vision plan and the master plan and concept phases. So next we're going to speak briefly just about possible futures, and this we think is really exciting, so Becca's going to walk us through that.
Thank you, Meg. So there's some things that we want to hold true in all possible futures, and some opportunities that suggest certain directions for all possible futures. The incredible island topography, meaning the change in elevation, the rockiness and flats, is something that really makes this island feel so dramatic and so much larger. And it's the thing that gives views in every direction, which is one of the reasons for those of you who've already been there, it feels full of discovery and wonder. Somebody said to me already today, there's no other place in the world like this island. It is so dramatic and so charming. So that's really largely because of the way the ground works. In relationship to that is the water's edge. And understanding that it's an island and making everybody be able to enjoy the water's edge and have access to the coast feels really important to how we think about its future. And then there's a relationship between the inside and the outside, meaning the inside of the island to the water, but also there are these unbelievably stunning works of architecture, these historic buildings and walls and docks and other structures that really give, home and space and places for events and learning. And so we need to understand what the relationship between those buildings and those structures, their interiors, and the access and outside is. We've already assembled a set of approaches to how we're thinking about the island, and this is based on feedback that you all have been providing for many years now. One of the things that many people in the community have stressed is the importance of preserving nature. That's also part of one of the long-term goals for your entire community as a part of the sort of strategic plans for Darien. Another major goal is to have more ways to experience the water. We want to celebrate these historic structures, and we want to facilitate exploration and adventure. All of this wants to happen without compromising the financial robustness of the community. And so really understanding how it is all financially viable is a huge part of our assignment. This is not a complete list because there are things like roller coaster and heliport that have been suggested, but we haven't put those on the list. We have instead put the list here under active recreation, cultural and ecological, and special events of things that have come forward frequently by many members of your community as sort of possible futures for us to be discussing and deliberating over. We thought it would be helpful to outline some of the ways that we start to think about how to make good decisions related to these choices and the competing possible futures. So we do that by testing different options. And so we'll just walk you through a series of ways of thinking about different possible changes or no changes. So here on the screen is ways that people could walk around the island depending on what we prioritize. How you get to the island is of a lot of interest for most everyone in the community. Right now, it's challenging to get to the island, and there isn't any parking. One of the benefits of having almost no parking on the island is that the island is preserved for nature and for exploration and for other kinds of movement and human activity. So here, we're looking at a series of possible ways of thinking about how cars and vehicles, even trolleys, could move through the island and where maybe parking could occur. We haven't fully studied the feasibility of every one of these options, but we're drawing through them and talking through them so we can start to understand what the pros and cons of these choices might be. Similarly, there's a set of approaches related to conservation and protection of the ecological richness. So you could, as a community, say, there's so much to preserve here that we want to preserve as much as possible across the entire island, and even enable more species and more ecology to be there. It's also possible that we identify just pockets or one sort of node of the island to really protect and preserve, and we open up others for all sorts of activities. Similarly, and there's something very radical we know about this slide, but there are enormous investments required for us to take care of these beautiful buildings and structures that are on the island, and so we need to look hard about what the choices are related to the preservation and adaptation of those structures. And so here, one truly radical proposal is that we look at demolishing everything but the stables. We're not endorsing that, but this is a sort of mental exercise. There's also a way where we basically say we prioritize the estate and the sort of that legacy of this being a home for a family, a very lucky family, and that we really invest resources into those structures particularly. And then there's a way that we look at actually even expanding very sensitively, but that there's a set of hopes and dreams and needs that you have as a community that would require even adding on to what is there. And then what happens here, right? Some of the things that have come forward a lot are the idea of some kind of nature playground. These are all organized for this conversation in terms of sort of themes. But so if we really want to work with the idea of preserving nature, which many people do, things like a pollinator pathway, more bird watching, more walks, these are things that we can expand. If you do want to experience the water more, add kayaking, for instance, have a community sailing or boat club program, potentially even have touch tank or really a public dock. Those are things that we can talk about and try and understand what we might need to do to make those happen. Back to those great old structures. There could be something as simple as beekeeping. We can keep that great lawn. We can have 2 great lawns. An amphitheater, there's sort of a hint at that already. Being able to have community rooms or an art festival. And then adventure. We've heard a lot of interest in something like a swimming pool, or perhaps pickleball, perhaps not both, but maybe both, right? So these are the conversations as a community we need to have and be really careful about. And then, how is it all viable financially? There are amazing equestrian facilities there now, but it's hard, I think, to make much money off of continuing the use of the equestrian. So is there a way to think about the stables that could expand the revenue source there? That's something that we're looking at. Some people can imagine a hotel being there. But if you have a hotel, then there are a lot of other things you can't have, right? And it starts to potentially, in some ways, privatize this island. While that island feels large, or the island feels large, it's not actually that large. So these are some of the questions and conversations that we need to all have with you, and things that we're trying to study so we can really bring forward the right vision for all of you. And then just to look at everything together, and to start to see, as you might sort through choices and priorities, what might happen. Again, none of these are designs. It's more to share with you how we have a process to begin to think and make good decisions together with you about the future of the island. So we will have this drawing also out this afternoon to prompt conversation, and we imagine stimulate some debate. Now, just so you know exactly how you get to participate in all that debate, Meg's going to talk a little bit more about that reach.
Thank you, Becca. And I just want to stress everything that Becca just presented. None of these are ideas that are set in stone. Our duty is to really make sure that we capture all ideas and that we listen to the community and that we put every possibility out there, and that is part of this community engagement process, right? So we want to make sure that for everything that we're sharing with you today, you understand that this is just a mere collection of all the ideas that have been put forth so far. But nothing is permanent, nothing is set in stone, and we're just beginning this conversation. So that's why we're here today, to make sure that we can hear from you all about what you would like. So as part of our outreach, we today here have workshop boards and activity stations. We welcome you all to visit each of these stations and to speak with somebody from our staff and from our group of consultants, where we can really talk to you about how you gain access to the water's edge. How do you make the site accessible physically and inviting physically? How do you engage with and preserve the ecology of this site? How do you prioritize and understand the deep and rich history of the architecture on site? And then lastly, how do you as a city and as a town engage the right mechanisms for governance for this open space? So as I mentioned earlier, we have a survey. It's a QR code. As you leave, you can scan it here. You can also scan it as you leave the town hall. And so you'll see that when you take the survey, we're really trying to deploy a broad series of questions to capture as much input from you all as possible. There's opportunities to answer specific questions, but then there are also open-ended questions, so that if there's something that's important to you that you want to make sure that we know about or that we hear about, please do make sure that you fill out the survey. This is a great opportunity for you all to give us direct input and for us to hear directly from you.
Michael, come back. So there's also, for those of you who prefer to use your handwriting, we have index cards and we have suggestion boxes. So if you just crane your neck a little bit to the back on your way out, feel free to put your comments in the suggestion box. And then last thing to say is November 9th, which is also a Saturday, is the date for the next workshop that will be published soon. If you want to do more than just leave a comment, but you actually want to mark something on a map, we have maps that also have places for notes and drawing that are, yeah, actually, Ming, do you mind holding up at the back there, okay? So we will be collecting all of these things from you, and we just want as many forms of participation from you as possible. So come and talk with us, write down things, take the survey, have your friends and family take the survey, and come also this afternoon if you have that flexibility in your schedule. And thank you all so very much. You have one more comment?
So I just want to add, you'll see on each of these boards, we have these blue stickers with very specific questions that ask you to indicate with the stickers answers to questions. So please do come up to the boards and place stickers in response to some of the questions that we ask, because again, that helps us get some of your input. So thank you.
Meeting approved the money to buy the island. Right away, access and education go together. To get the town on board, you can look at these pictures, but if you haven't been out there, you can't even start to understand what this is. So there's got to be a way to allow more people to get access there. The buy-in for all of this is not cheap. There's going to be a lot of money spent here. And if you want to get everybody on board, the more people who get out there and walk around and see what you're talking about, the better. That's it.
We agree, and so access has been, I think, the #1 priority for the committee. And every meeting we've had so far, the majority of the discussion, if you've been listening, is about how we get access and how we make that access sort of as safe and immediate as possible without opening up any challenges or dangers. So one of the big excitements of today is that we're hoping to really get so many more of you out to the island. The bridle paths will be open with tour guides today. The stables are going to be open, and there even is going to be a moment to go and see the beach if you haven't seen the beach. So completely agree, and with that, we invite you all to come up and talk with us. Thank you again for coming out today.